Hello everyone to the video Kari QA pipeline. My name is Simon and I'm the QA engineer at Kari. Kari is a story-driven adventure puzzle game which is currently released on Steam, or it's currently basically, when you possibly watch this, it's released, but at this moment it is in early access closed beta. I am talking in this video about our QA process and how we set it up during the course of our development. So I will talk quickly about the QA pipeline in general, like what tools are we using. Then I'm going more in depth about the build server pipeline, about the test server pipeline, about Swarm. Swarm is from Perforce, the basically kind of like the Perforce equivalent to GitHub. Extra automatizations, and then the Jenkins must-have plugins. And at the end, I'm talking also quickly about software recommendations. Let's talk about the elements of our QA pipeline. So our QA pipeline consists out of Jenkins, which builds and run tests, and the actual game, like it builds it, it deploys it, it does all the heavy lifting. Then we have Perforce as our source control. This means that we do a trunk-based development cycle, so we don't have branches. So everything needs to go into the master. That's why our whole QA pipeline is so focused on reducing errors in the master, but more to this later. Then we use Helix Swarm, which is basically our platform to view the source code, to give reviews, to discuss your code. And then we use Discord as our main communication platform, and all our communications run to Discord. So what you do, like say the review, is the build failed, all this kind of stuff gets sent to Discord. And for internal and for public bug tracking, we're using Mantis bug tracking because it's the most versatile and easiest to set up bug tracking tool, which is not as full-blown as Jira, and it's easy to extend and easy somewhere to host. And so this is the high-level workflow of our QA pipeline. So the user creates some content and wants to push it to the master. In order to do so, they have to create a Swarm review, which then triggers the build server. The build server will validate that this basically builds and that there are no errors, which triggers then tests, aka the test server, which run the tests on the review. And if this works, the user gets notified and can push this. If this is, on the other hand, a full blown deployment process, then from this point on, after the tests have been validated, the build would be sent to Steam. And yeah, so let's talk about the build server workflow. Let's walk it through. So we have the user. The user creates a Swarm review, which triggers the build server for this particular review. And the build server informs the user via Discord, hey, there's a new review. This means the person who needs to review it, like if you specify a reviewer in Perforce, will get also a notification. Hey, you have to review this. While they do a manual review, the build server will build, and if there's a fail for the review, for whatever reason, it will inform the user. And if there's then this is the case, the build server will automatically update the Swarm review by saying, hey, there's a bug. It will also update the status in terms of up or down vote, in this case down vote. If everything was okay, it will trigger the build server, the test server. So, and then the test server will run its test. And optional in this case, you can also inform that the build was successful if you separate the build step and the test step from each other, which are actually different jobs on Jenkins, with different jobs in Jenkins. So, and this is optional. And this is the entire pipeline of the build server. So if we have then a test server, which is basically a different job, or an actual physical server, depends how you set it up, it will receive the artifacts from the build server, which then it will unpack and will run the tests on it. The user will get a notification on success. Hey, all the tests have been successful. It will then, next step, on fail, do the same thing, and will also inform the Swarm review in any case on like a success. it will do this status update in comments. And on fail, it will do a status update in a comment. It also will update, upvote or downvote depending on how you set it up. And this is the entire overview of the test server setting. So this is the test server setting specifically in an alternative version for Unreal Engine. So this is the entire setup of the build server. So now let's imagine that we don't actually trigger actual physical server. We run the tests immediately after the build. So we run the tests. When the tests have been successful or failed in this case, we inform Swarm and we inform the user. Swarm update a comment and update the status. If everything works fine, we're going to cook the content, or if this is the deployment, we're going to cook and assemble the executable, so basically pack it. Then if this result failed, we're going to inform again Swarm and Discord. So Swarm downvote for the review and Discord, hey, something is wrong. And if this is successful, we inform also Swarm, hey, everything is okay, and the user, everything is okay. And if this is the deployment build, we're going to deploy to the store of your choice. In our case, it's Steam. Now let's talk about possible Swarm review workflows. So option A. Option A looks like this. The user creates in P4V a review, which creates a Swarm review. This Swarm review will do something in the background. So this means the user has to wait. And when everything happens, the user will be notified that, hey, there's a review. When this has been done, the user, someone else, like a physical person, can review the Swarm review, and everything is fine. So option B is basically the user creates a Swarm review, which creates a Swarm review in that case, and this then means waiting for the build server to actually give a result, which then informs Discord. And someone can review the change list. So these are the two workflows. The difference here is that in the first one, somebody will review immediately without waiting on the result of the build server, while in this workflow, somebody will only review after the build server has said something. So some extra automatizations are things you can automate. For example, you can automatically update the Mantis version. So for example, whenever you ship something to Steam, you can update the version automatically with Mantis via the build server as an extra post step. You can do the same thing with, for example, change automatically statuses of a bug when you find a bug. And this is very useful because it gives you the possibility that whenever a user creates a review which resolves a bug or shall resolve a bug, when the build server and the test server validate, hey, this actually works, it can set the bug to feedback, post automatically the change list link or the review list so people can follow up, hey, what's there? Let's fix this. Cool, nice. And then when everything has been manually reviewed by somebody else and it's acknowledged, then this can be resolved. Easy going. Another version is, in this case, this screenshot as an example. You can automatically swarm comments, which is also very nice, where you give more information, like what I have in the picture. Hey, the build stage map tests, please, like they fail. Please check out the review. And this is very important when you have an extra log parser, which can get some more information. Instead of saying, hey, map tests failed, you could say map test A failed. So let's talk about the must-have Jenkins plugins. There would be log parser plugin, which basically parses the log after some parameters you set. P4 plugin if you use Perforce. Pipelines is very useful, and this is what this whole presentation is based on. Everything we do is with pipeline scripts. So that's why you need pipeline. You need the GitHub Groovy library if you want to use any interesting libraries from Groovy, which I do. The Rebuilder plugin is very nice to debug on Jenkins itself. If you have a problem with a pipeline, you can just rebuild it, or in general, you can rebuild it. It's a really nice plugin. And copy artifacts is also very important. What's also maybe interesting for you if you don't like Discord, if you like more email, you can use the extensive email plugin, which also works fine. And software recommendations are basically my Jenkins pipeline script, of course. So it's a collection of Jenkins pipeline scripts which make it easier to handle Perforce, aka Swarm, Unreal Engine 4 for automated testing and for in general building and cooking, as well as Mantis, as well as Unity, as well as copying and downloading stuff from the internet, unpacking them. So it has a lot of functionality in there. If you want to give it a get-go, check it out. It's not definitely the most optimized pipeline script. So if you want to pull request, you're welcome. And the second one is a really, really useful tool, which is UE4 CLI, which gives you a nice command line interface for Unreal Engine, which is very useful on the build server and helps a lot to be good with managing an Unreal 4 build process. So thank you very much for following me. I hope I could answer some questions, or it was at least interesting. If you have any questions, just Twitter me or DM me, whatever you want. And thank you very much. Have a nice evening or morning or day.